Many people try psychedelics to see their self or their ego killed, removed, destroyed. It has many names. And there are actually two types of ego death. There's a sense of self-annihilation. It's the detachment from separate self-centered existence. And there's a loss of ego feeling, the transformation of the psyche, a shift in personality. I was lucky to experience both, and I will talk about what they are and how they can change a personality. So the first type is what many people describe as a violent process of loss of self on high doses of psychedelics, sometimes heroic doses. But my experiences are usually very peaceful and very positive. In fact, I'm so familiar with them that sometimes I question if it really is ego death that I'm experiencing. Because I often leave my body and see everything from a non-physical perspective, traveling through other dimensions. And it doesn't take much for me, it's only 1 gram of dried mushrooms. So the first experience of ego death I had was the first time I took mushrooms. And I remember vividly leaving my body and going to another dimension, the one that I came from, and seeing my true self in my real form, the energy form. So what you see now on the screen is actually me, my real form that I saw when I was there. This diamond-shaped energy form filled with light, that's me. Apparently that's what I look like where I came from. This state is just happiness and fulfillment, detachment from suffering. It's absolutely wonderful. People describe ego death as the ability to see that everything's connected, being out of your body and seeing the connection that we have with other people and the world. And I actually get in that state a lot. As I explained before in my videos, we all come from the same source. We truly are one. And some people describe it as energy, as God. I call it 434. It's this omnipresent, all-encompassing energy that everyone and everything is made of. And we're all connected through it and through love. Love is 434. Love and feelings is what we're made of. People repeat this a lot, but we are not humans having a spiritual experience, but metaphysical beings having a human experience. Also, part of the ego death experience is the connection with nature, and that's something I actually need to make another video about. I actually experienced once a very strong connection with nature where I was able to see that we're all a part of nature, but in a way that makes us humans and our technology look really bad, because we all convinced ourselves that we're separate from each other and that we're separate from nature, which is not true. We're all one. Also, I need to mention that all of this is possible to achieve through meditation, and that's something I still need to learn how to master, because I can get in a state where I leave my body and it's like watching the Matrix movie. Everything around me turns into energy, and I'm still at a stage where it scares me. I really don't know how to control it and what to do with it, so I'm still learning, and I hope sooner or later I'll know how to go beyond that. And now I would like to describe the second type of ego death. And I believe this one is more important. It's much more beneficial to you as a person and your existence here. So, a small disclaimer, I started defining my ego about 10 years ago, and it was thanks to two people, Wayne Dyer and Michael Tsarion. Wayne Dyer was a motivational and spiritual speaker. He was a writer and a director. A great man. He died recently, and he changed my life. Michael Tsarion is an Irish occultist and a writer. He's a very smart person who understands reality and what human mind is made of. So I went into psychedelics with an awareness of the existence of ego as a part of my personality. I just didn't know how much of it was my ego. So how do you define ego? Well, the easiest definition would be needs of your body, the opposite of your spiritual needs. It can also be simply defined as you, because your ego controls most of your actions. It's very difficult to see it as something else. I know this problem very well because I had ego problems for a long time in my life, and I still have them to this day. It's not as bad as it used to be, but ego is a giant part of our existence here because we never get a chance to see the real person inside of ourselves. The problem is that ego stands in a way of achieving a lot in this life. It blocks your development, it ruins the chances you get in life, it stops you from fulfilling your destiny here. Ego also distorts your ability to see the truth and the reality for what it is. It keeps you in a fake world with distorted version of reality filled with anger and fear. To put it simply, ego creates a fake version of you. you are not yourself if you're driven by ego. It also creates conflicts and takes away your ability to connect with others. It takes away the ability to develop and acquire knowledge. And I'm saying all of this because once I learned what ego is, I started seeing it in other people, and I've seen egos absolutely destroy people's lives. I've seen people with such big egos that they were unable to function in society. So this is how machine elves killed my ego. A few years ago, and I think it was the first time I took mushrooms, 2 machine elves showed up and started operating on my brain. And the first thing that it did was curing my depression. The way they did it is they took off a concrete depression vest made of my past experiences. It turns out that I was wearing a heavy concrete vest made of something that's not relevant to my life anymore, and they took it off. And as soon as they did it, my depression was gone. The next thing they did was they showed me the real me inside of a cast made of my ego. They showed me my ego, which was just this amalgam of fears, unfulfilled desires, fakeness, bodily needs, everything that's painful in your life. And they said that this cast is what I use to navigate through everyday life. This cast was who I believed I was, but the real me was this little boy inside of it, who I remember seeing for the last time when I was 9, before all the fear and stress. That was the moment when my mom left and a very destructive part of my life started. So I recognized this boy as soon as I saw him, because I haven't seen him for almost 30 years, and I didn't realize that he's still in there. It was a very emotional moment. It was like reconnected with a family member, someone you hadn't seen in 30 years, and I remember crying a lot. It was very painful to see this little boy crushed underneath layers of fear and anger and all the other things that are so unnecessary in our lives. But the next thing they did is they showed me my ego through my writing. That was a very interesting experience because they told me, now we're going to show you what your ego does to you. And they said, write a sentence. Now, I write a lot. I've been a video producer for more than 10 years and writing is something I really enjoy. So when I wrote down a simple sentence, I realized that I used language that I normally don't use, language that is foreign to me. And it turned out that ego subconsciously is in control of my choice of words. So my ego is so in control of me that even the things I say do not come from the real me. It turns out I select words that make me look good, that create a certain type of an image of me in somebody else's eyes. That was a huge eye-opener. But since then, life got much easier. Since the ego death experiences, I have access to my true self in this reality and on small doses of mushrooms and even by smoking weed. The thing is that you don't know who you are. Separating your ego from your personality is almost impossible to most people. The reality we live in doesn't encourage that. In fact, it actually promotes ego development. Also, you need to be open-minded, intelligent, you need to have the guts to face your real self. It takes a lot to actually take it in. But this experience changes you forever. Once you get to see yourself without your ego, you will see it acting up in real life. You will see when you're controlled by it, and it will let you silence it and let the real you resurface. Also, you'll get to learn who you are. That's priceless. Most people don't get this chance, and they should, because you can go through your whole life not knowing what you're made of. Ego death should be the core of every psychedelic experience. It is a solution to most of your problems. Addictions, trauma, relationship problems, confidence problems, and so on. Everyone should go through ego death because it can solve those problems. Simply put, it is years of psychotherapy condensed in one single moment. Do not chase ego death experiences with big psychedelic doses. As I said, my ego death happened gradually and involved only 1 gram of dried cubensis B+ mushrooms. Thank you for watching. Please read the video description, join me on other social media, Patreon and Subscribestar.